This episode is sponsored by Cocatel Collective, a strategic sales and marketing agency representing a highly curated portfolio of emerging beverage brands, from premium all-natural sodas, wine spritzes, and spirits all around the world.
Welcome to the In Process podcast, where we share stories of resilience and passion. We're excited that you found our YouTube channel, and we'd love to hear from you. So be sure to comment below and hit that like button. If you're enjoying these stories, be sure to subscribe and share. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of In Process podcast. Big shout out to Rhymesayers for sharing their music with us in the show. Joining us today are Xavier Alexander, co-founder of Metric Coffee here in Chicago, and his wife, Kirstin Alexander, who are both parents to three amazing little children and own and operate one of our favorite coffee shops here in Chicago, Metric Coffee and Brite Donuts and Baked Goods. Please welcome them to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome, guys. We're gonna start off easy here. How was our day so far?
Oh God. Well, I've been up since 3 a.m. Opening the bakery.
Oh my God.
So I'm going in. I went in today. Mondays and Tuesdays are my days to kind of open and give the team, because we're open 7 days. Give the rest of the team a little bit of time to rest. And so Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm usually in by 3:30.
Wow.
And then he's handling the drop off of all three of the kids, which is new.
Yeah.
That's new for him. But otherwise,
Nice.
This morning the bake off went okay. We have a couple wholesale accounts that we're servicing. So for me, kind of, I'm sure you guys can relate of like, you don't know what happened during service. It just happened.
Right.
And you're like, I don't know, actually. I haven't thought about it.
Right. Jeez.
And what time do you open?
The bakery we try to get our wholesale accounts out the door by 6. 6 a.m. But the coffee shop opens at 7.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
How was your morning? We haven't even talked yet.
Okay.
Actually.
No, actually, I don't know. I'm sorry. Hi, nice to meet you. How are you? Yeah, we haven't actually even talked. It was pretty quiet on the way here. She was applying makeup, and I'm just like, where are we going? Just like, we're finding parking, like just processing information. Yeah, I mean, like she's out the door by 3 something, and my morning is like chaos, like wrangling 3 kids. And but it's I will say that now that I have some systems in place based on like recommendations she's made on how to manage the morning, it's been okay. It's just it's a little challenging, but we get it done.
Gotcha. Yeah. We do want to touch kind of briefly onto some of your backgrounds here for our listeners. But before we do that, how old are your 3 children, by the way?
So our oldest is almost 13.
Okay.
And then our middle is 9. He just had his birthday this weekend. And then our youngest is 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're a handful at this point.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I mean, I would say they're less of a handful now than they have been. Once you cross that threshold of about 7 or 8, it becomes a different kind of chaos. It's like less danger. Will they survive? More like, okay, now we have to talk about like being a good person, and it's chaotic in a different way.
Yeah.
But for me, I kind of thrive on chaos, especially. So I mean, now it's like, oh well, now it's a little easier.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's not the same for you.
I don't do chaos. Yeah, I like calm and chill. But we sort of we navigate through the day as it comes, and I think that I learn a lot from her because she handles chaos really well, whereas I might not. But then I'm just learning. At 47 now, I'm still learning how to manage just the struggle of running a business and also managing 3 children at home, as she's working 60 to 70, 80 hours a week.
Right.
No lie. Like, it's just the hardest working person I know. Managing a team, rebuilding the menu, like it's a whole new business.
I love that.
Like, so I'm proud of her, and the team really, like they feel good to have her there, because I think that in that environment is just different than the coffee shop. The chaos there is not unlike the kitchen, and so like they're doing a lot of pivoting, a lot of just like, oh, this got fucked, we got to do this, boom, boom. And it's just, she's really fast on her feet, whereas I just fall apart. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so I don't know. So she's a great like leader in the kitchen, and I just don't know that many people that can do what she does. So I'm glad that she could be here to, be a part of this. Yeah.
Can I ask how long you two have been together, and what, I guess, like, do you guys meet here in Chicago?
Like 6 months, I think.
Okay.
We just met.
We just met.
Yeah.
We just had our 14-year anniversary.
That's amazing. 14 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
To the two of you.
Yeah. We both met here. We both moved here and met really quickly afterwards. And, you know, we both were kind of like sensing in each other, like, are you going in the direction that I'm going? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I think you are. Like, let's go together. You know,
Got
that's
it.
kind of like what I think initially like drew us to each other. We got married really quickly. I grew up pretty religious. So like by 19, I was like the old lady. Like everyone was already married. Like from my church, you know, they've
Interesting.
been,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe other people who have grown up in the church can relate to that. But yeah, we got married relatively quickly. And then we welcomed our first son not even a year later.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's been, I guess we're heading into 15 years.
That's
So,
amazing. And
Yeah.
working together both professionally and at home. So
Yeah, I mean, the professionally aspect is definitely within the last 6 months. Probably because our youngest son is now in full-time school.
I see.
So like I've really had to wait, you know,
Yeah.
to like have access to time and have access to even like transportation, you know, to like be able to work.
Yeah.
So,
And so Xavier, I want to jump let's jump a little into the background here of getting metric. Maybe we can kind of summarize what that is for listeners that aren't aware, that are maybe abroad or out of
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah, so Metric is a specialty coffee roaster, wholesaler, retailer. We started Metric in 2013 officially, and so we just had our 10th year anniversary last March, and it was founded by myself and our business partner Darko Arangelovic, and so yeah, in the beginning it was just old crusty roaster, a bag of coffee, and like no investors, no nothing. So like all the work that we put in on our family and their family to build Metric in the first 3 to 5 years there was a lot of challenges that really could have just like completely nixed our dream.
Yeah.
But what made us sort of, I guess, what gave us some longevity, so far, has been our willingness to just like get dirty. You know, like we just don't make excuses. We go in, we get the job done, and it's been really challenging for us on a personal level, and I think for us on a professional level. But we're proud to say that today we have a thriving business. We do sourcing, like our own direct trade sourcing with coffee farmers,
Right.
All over the coffee growing belt. I have the great benefit of traveling to Colombia, Ethiopia, Guatemala, all these beautiful countries, and learn from their culture, source from small farmers, and then we import the coffee roasted and make people happy with it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing what you guys have done. I mean, we're obviously big fans of the brand ourselves here at Perilla. We feature the cold brew on our menu and in our cocktails. And just a personal fan of the coffee myself. I love the transparency, and there's something about the branding that I absolutely, I feel like you guys just nail it. And knowing the challenges of just operating a business in general, a small business, I kind of have a hard time seeing you guys as a small business now. Like you guys are it's such a great
We're
brand.
pretty big. Yeah. Very big deal. No.
But there's a lot that I love about the brand, especially with some of the single origins. I love this relation that I have to wine labels, and we've talked about this before, where you really show and highlight the farmers that are growing this. So it takes me back to Burgundy, and takes me back to Pinot labels, where I see who's making these grapes, and then it's the location, right? And there's this beautiful, just thought and intention behind what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
But just to give a brief background, I know we started back in Starbucks, right? That was our early days. And then you spent some time at Intelligentsia.
Correct. Yeah.
And what was the year that you decided to make that jump and leap of faith to open your own grocery?
So that was in 2013. Yeah, because I'd been basically moonlighting, like metric, and then also had a day job.
Yeah.
And that was an incredibly every season for us has been really challenging, but like having small kids and
Well, yeah. So he'd wake up at like 5, go work at Intelligentsia.
Wow.
Come home 4, I'd feed him, and then he would leave
Oh
and
my
go
God.
do it again,
Right.
at the night. And I'm home with a newborn or
Yeah.
a toddler and a newborn,
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it was during the winter, if I believe.
Yeah, it
or
was
if I
effing
remember.
cold. It was
yeah,
awful.
it was like during the winter. That first season was like really intense.
Wow.
He was working a lot.
Yeah.
Fresh baby. So.
Yeah, but thinking back, had we not gone through those experiences, which I think we'd still, I don't know, we would experience wisdom through other ways, but the wisdom, sort of the hardships of what we endured early on with establishing a company, especially with literally no capital. It was just like a roaster in a bag. And it's okay, we got to flip this and turn it into 2 bags and 5 and 100, while managing a day job and also trying to juggle everything in between. And so for me, what the binding to it all was that she was the rock, So
I love that.
Well, have you guys heard the story of the roaster?
No.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you want to tell it from your perspective? I think you should.
Do you
should.
want me to tell?
I want you to tell it. Yeah, because
Okay,
I think
so
it'd be great. Yeah.
he's told me he's met Darko, his business partner. He's kind of pitching this idea to me, and I'm in this crazy newborn haze of we don't have any family support. We didn't. I've always been a domestic worker myself. I've always either worked in restaurants or worked as a nanny or a household manager.
Yeah.
So sudden loss of income.
Right.
So suddenly I'm not working.
Yeah.
I have a baby at home. No support. He's pitching this idea hey, what if we do this? And I'm okay, yeah. This falls in line with where I see us going. The kind of family I want to build. Yes. So then he's okay, cool. We need $10,000.
Right.
I don't know where you're gonna get that,
Yeah.
So he managed to scrounge it up. Him and Darko went in on buying this roaster sight unseen.
Right.
Remember, literally holding this baby, rocking him, so exhausted. And Xavier was on the computer looking at roasters in Germany, and I was
Right.
oh my god, this seems such a far off thing. So they finally scrounge up the money and they purchase this roaster.
I love that.
Right. Okay. So then he's okay, it's coming. We're going to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. 6 months later, it's still stuck in customs.
Oh my
it's
God.
still stuck. And the guy ghosted us. We didn't even know, we thought it was a scam. So this, he's we spent all this money on this roaster. And I'm
Yeah.
cool. Where is it?
Yeah.
And he's we actually don't know
Oh my
where it
God.
is. Do you want to pick up?
Yeah. And I want to add sort of a little bit to that. So how we got the money was that I took out a student loan.
Oh my God.
And then I used that
Yeah.
money instead of going
I
to
didn't
school.
know this at the time
Yeah. Well,
either.
Surprise. Yay. What a dumb idea. Because that really bit us in the ass later on.
Oh,
But
no.
we got it done. We got the machine eventually, and then we launched the company.
I have to stop you there
Yeah.
because so we get the machine finally 6 months later, right? And it's
Oh,
supposed
yeah.
to be completely rehabbed,
Oh.
right? So we have these set of photos that Yelena, Darko's wife, has of everyone's
Yeah.
got the crate in, they're opening it up, everybody's smiling, and then it's the
The
door
crate, the
comes
door,
off,
yeah.
and then their faces just drop, and then there's no more photos.
Oh no.
Can we
Because
do
the
this? It was
roaster
fucked up.
is
It was,
a mess.
It was fucked
You
up.
Oh
can't even
my
plug it in.
gosh.
It's not even. You can't
No,
even
it was
fire
rust.
it up.
It was like a rust bucket.
It was terrible.
Wow.
We got it was where's Ashton Kutcher? Where's
Yeah.
somebody's gonna pop out gotcha.
So then not
Like,
only
yeah.
so then I'm expecting him to come home and be yeah, we plugged it in, we roasted the coffee, and
Oh, I
he was
cried.
like,
I was
so
crying. It was awful.
it doesn't actually work.
Oh no.
So then it was another 6 months of them moonlighting,
Wow.
fixing this roaster, scrubbing it down by hand,
Right.
completely rehabbing it, and neither one of them knew how to rehab it.
Yeah.
So they both had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a really intense love-hate relationship with this roaster because it's this thing that was like so far away, and then it arrived and it was busted, and then it, you know, so but now it's still there, and now I've made peace with the roaster.
Do you still use the roaster?
Oh yeah, we still use it. Yeah. Oh yeah. Still
That's
cooking.
amazing.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the challenges and stress and anxiety during that time, but amazing to see the other side of this. And I also can't help but think of some advice that was just shared to us recently on the show about putting yourself into uncomfortable positions and just figuring your way out, you know? And I feel like there's, I think, a common thread with most of us that get into entrepreneurship, and there is always that leap of faith. Kirstin, I want to jump into your background a little bit. So you mentioned you worked in restaurants. Was it mostly front of house or back of house?
I do just basically everything.
Oh,
so
okay.
my first restaurant job was at like a little strip mall Chinese food restaurant in Detroit.
Oh, cool.
I was a server. I was the only server. I was like 14.
Wow.
And so that was my first like introduction into like the restaurant industry. And then, you know, it's kind of it's a job that you can kind of walk into, especially like front of house, like very young with not a lot of skills, and like make enough money to get by.
Right.
I was on my own at 16. So the restaurant industry was like definitely a place where I could work. I could go to school, high school, and then work and make enough, you know, to
Right.
get by. And then, yeah, so I mean, moving to Chicago, I'm skipping over kind of a lot, but when I moved here, I went directly into nannying, household managing, and I was cooking for this family. And she said, well, you're actually like pretty good at this. Like maybe you should think about it. And so that was kind of one of the first, like kind of like, oh, maybe, yeah. And then just, like working the hours that I could. I've worked front of house, back of house, basically any position, you know, in
Right.
the restaurant, like
That
I've
you
worked.
needed, right.
Yeah.
I love that.
So
And I mean, I don't know if you know, I don't know if Mary shared this with you, but you guys both have a little bit of a background.
Yeah. I was at Kasama.
So Mary
pastry
did the
as well.
pastries,
Yeah.
part of the pastry program over there.
oh, nice.
Yeah. So we have some incredibly exciting news that we want to get to. And I think a lot of us have been kind of like looking and waiting to hear the incredible news. So we want to touch base on what's happening in Avondale. So do you guys want to kind of share like how this thing, I guess, started? Because it's been a project.
It's been it's huge.
Another project.
Yeah, this is like the roaster story, but like even more. It's like 10 times. It's like So I'll share a couple of details, and I'd like for her. You can pick up from there and just sort of So we purchased a property at 3110 North Kedzie. So it's like it's almost right off the highway. So like 1984 there, you have on-off exit. It's a standalone building with a parking lot, which we're turning into a seasonal patio, or hopefully a year-round patio. But when we first found the space, it was previously an antique mall. So the owner was selling it, and it was nowhere to be found in any like local realtor website, but it was some podunk website that had the listing. Like, well, maybe this is fake or it's no longer for sale. But Darko went, talked to the owner. He's like, yeah, the building's for sale. And we're just like, we were really just in love with the beautiful like 100-year-old ceiling. You know, you have this like skylight that just shines through. It feels majestic. It's like it's a theater. It's like a beautiful, you know, like old school church where you had the lights and the stained glass and what have you. And we're like, we have to have it. We got to do it, you know. And that's where the problems came, because we just, you know, Darko and I just sort of like
Obsessed on
ran
this
to the
now.
bank and ran to places. So like, how do we were just obsessed. We have to have this building. And I may or may have not really shared a lot of this information with Kirstin in the beginning. So I think we just shared it right as we're like, hey, we're buying it. Here's the offer, and here's the thing.
Good
And she's
lesson
like,
in
well, what's
communication
happening?
here.
What?
Yeah.
So I'll let her explain from that. But we are now over a year in. We have the vanilla box, which means that all the, you know, the drywall's there, like the bar's basically like done. The kitchen is on its way, like the hoods are going up. We're doing finishes.
Very cool.
But the challenging thing is that we got an SBA loan, and then the rates have been just skyrocketing. So it's not fixed.
Right.
Yeah. And so like we're dealing with that, which isn't fun, on top of like we have just a really tiny budget to build it out. So then that's where the scrappy part of how our families and Darko and how Metric and now Brite operates is that, we don't just sort of lay down and like, okay, well, we can't do it. Like, it was just that not going forward with it wasn't an option. Like, we're going to find a way to achieve what we want with whatever means are available to us.
I love that.
And so like that's what's always attracted me to her, and also attracted, like the friends and partnerships and relationships that I've had over the years. They're people that inspire that. They're just willing to go after it.
Yeah.
Willing to go. And so we've been going after it. We have the building. We're in the finishes phase. And we're just really excited because we're going to have indoor seating. We're going to have the availability, the ability to do roasting tours, education. We want to do events. We're also building this, what we're calling for now, we're calling a sensory room, but we're going to add some speakers. We're going to have a door that really that connects to the kitchen, and we can feed people and give them coffee and also play music. So it'll be a sensory experience for ticketed, patrons. We are still working out the details of exactly what that's going to look like, but she's doing a lot of R&D right now with her staff. So, we're really excited about the things that they're proposing for Avondale.
Yeah.
And we should hopefully be open. Our hope is springtime, but we'll see. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I want to back it up,
Yeah.
and we're going to come back to this because it's really exciting. But I want to kind of talk about Brite a little bit. So Brite was incepted at the same time. Was that what as Metric?
No, not at all. If you want to start talking about it, share the beginning.
So I'll share the beginning, and I'll let you pick it up from there, because during like the pandemic hits and people are at home, nobody's going out.
Mm-hmm.
Our cafe, I think, by virtue of being so tiny and so cost effective, meaning like we are within
the square
ICC,
footage for how much we
It's tiny.
sell per square footage,
Right.
it's very impressive.
It's very.
It's about 40 square feet.
No. It's 300 square feet. So
The
yeah,
cafe?
The cafe, yeah,
Oh,
but it
feels like
well,
40.
yeah, the front, the actual
the
front,
front,
where
yeah.
patrons
The front
are
is small.
definitely very, very small. Yeah, it could be 30, 40 square feet, but because of that, like it allowed us to serve people out to the street.
Yep.
And so we were doing some really great numbers, which we couldn't believe it. But then, like prior to the onset of the pandemic, we had already wanted to launch a donut brand. So, but that got put on the back burner because of what was happening. And then it wasn't long after, a few months after, we're sort of like, the dust is sort of settling and we kind of figured out, all right, this is the new now. We talked to Seeger Bayer, who's a mutual friend, and he used to work at Publican and the Heritage. He started the donut program at Brite.
Oh,
so,
I didn't
yeah, and then
know
Erica
that.
Chan.
It's
from
fun to
Publican came.
find there's been a couple of previous chefs.
Oh,
so it's
cool.
been fun for me to come in and like uncover and like familiarize myself.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Seeger's recipe. I can tell by the way he's written it.
I love that.
Or like, oh, this is Aja's recipe. Like I can
Yeah.
tell whose is whose.
I
But
love that.
yeah, so there's been several very, very talented chefs that
Yeah.
have been involved in the brand before I've stepped in recently. But
Yeah. I want to before I just want to let listeners know, in case you guys have not made it to Metric, the West Loop location. Is that what do you guys call it? West Loop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
It is at 2021 West Fulton Street, and it's got a beautiful little. I love the front, and especially in the spring and summertime, maybe even early fall, you can sit outside on the patio.
Yep.
I love the visibility of the roastery from the cafe. There's just something beautiful about how you guys designed that space. And not only that, I just want to compliment your operations team over there. So one, I mean, obviously we work with their wholesale account team, and they're always incredible. They respond so quickly to, any last minute, mess ups on our part. We're like, oh, we forgot to order. We need something on the fly. They're always really great about it. But the team that works the cafe in the front, I've always had such incredible experiences over there. And I feel like there was just one thing that we always kind of talk about in hospitality is not just the service, the act of service, me going and getting a coffee or a pastry. but more or less the hospitality aspect and the feeling I have of being taken care of and really just appreciated as a customer. And so I feel like, kudos to your team over there.
Thank you.
And whoever in upper management, they're doing an incredible job. So
We'll let them know. Thank you so much. Yeah, and that, getting that feedback really it lifts our spirits, because some days are, I mean, you guys know, it's like you're doing your thing and it's like you get down because you're, I mean, some of the folks, including myself, we get really hard on ourselves. So like, but our goal and what we're always endeavoring to do is just to make people happy through what we do, so whether it's the service side, whether it's like roasting really good coffee, telling the stories, like we really love what we do. And I'm glad that it shows.
Yeah, and I love there's a common thread both between Brite and Metric about not just like sustainability, but also the transparency and about working with local purveyors as much as you guys can. Do you want to kind of touch light on that?
Please.
Yeah, so an interesting thing that has kind of happened is, so one of my best friends, her name's Sarah Bolacon, we have raised our 3 children. She has 3 children also.
Oh, wow.
We've raised our 3 children together in the city on shoestring budgets. We used to, I tell this story a lot, and I have a dessert based off of this story that I can't wait to reveal eventually.
Oh, cool.
But we would take the bus with our kids in a sling and all 6 kids with us, and we'd have our little food tokens that you get from Link.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they trade it in. So you're like, I got my Link card, and they give you little peasant wooden coins.
Oh, interesting.
I know it's really actually not great, but I'm like, couldn't have done this in a better way.
Yeah.
But we'd combine them, and we'd go to the Green City Farmers Market and get all the kids huge bunches of Seconds peaches.
Yeah.
And they have the Gale's grilled cheese. Have you guys ever had that?
No.
No.
So it's just a cute little grilled cheese stand. It's so good, but they sell the butts of bread in bags for $1. So we would go and we would buy a flat of Seconds peaches and 2 bags of the bread butts, sourdough bread butts. And our kids, we'd lay out a blanket, and our kids would just be feasting on these juicy Seconds peaches and eating this really beautiful sourdough bread. So we really solidified our friendship in those very early child rearing years. And she is a farmer or a gardener. She and her husband did basically a rooftop garden for, what was the name of the restaurant?
Arbor. Yeah.
It's in the green. Where is that? Anyway, they basically created a restaurant garden for this restaurant. The restaurant has since closed, but so we've always connected over food and farming and child rearing, and she just bought a farm this year.
Wow.
So both of us at the same time have sort of been able to, I hate the word manifest. I hate that word, but it manifested at the same time of me being able to step into this aspect of the business, the food aspect of the business, and her buying the farm at the same time. So, for example, the carrots on our Danish are her carrots. She planted 300 feet of carrots, and she's like, I have all these carrots. I'm like, cool. I'll take them all. Just bring them whenever you can. We'll put them on something.
I love that.
And now we're starting to look at seed catalogs, and I can literally dream with her and be like, what do we want to put on the menu? What can you grow? What do you want to grow? And she's like, what do you want to put on the menu? So thinking about I want those really fancy pink radicchio, stuff like that. And she'll grow it for me.
Yeah.
I don't know where else you would really find that.
Yeah.
So it's fun to think of our, it's kind of more the idea of an all-day cafe. It's definitely going to be cafe food. I am still struggling to consider it a restaurant.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we are, endeavoring to help sustain their family, their farm.
I love that.
And it's a really fun crossover and very serendipitous for it to happen at the same time. Because our we have 6 kids between us. They're all almost the same ages. Yeah. So this year, it's been fun for us both to kind of step into like, okay, our kids are grown. Now we have time for ourselves. We have time for our businesses. And it's fun to play off of that with each other.
And it's so special too, because I think your kids are going to be able to share those things.
Absolutely.
Like whether they're at the farm or at the cafe, the crossover there too. And just, it's special that you have such a connection, like as friends first.
Yeah.
Usually it's as like, farmer to, chef first maybe, but it's fun to be the other way.
And it's fun because we've both dreamt of that for so long. I mean, you can imagine we've had so many family dinners where like we're looking around and we're like, wow, this food's actually really good. Like, wow, she'll bring like crates of fresh vegetables that, our kids are used to eating that. And we'll prepare things together, and it's really, really magical. So it's been a long time coming.
I love that. Where is this farm?
It's in Wadsworth. It's called Four Rivers Farm.
Wadsworth is
In
Illinois?
It's north, yeah.
Okay.
And actually, a funny story about our kids. My youngest, Tito, he's 6. Do you remember when he fell in the pond?
Oh, yeah.
So they have like a little pond outside, and at the time it was like covered in moss.
Oh, okay.
And we were out looking at the garlic fields because they're growing seed garlic as a cash crop basically, and then have a couple of acres for farmers market and direct, basically to restaurants. Like for me, like this vegetable farm basically, but most of it is for garlic. So we're out looking over all the garlic, we're like, wow, yeah. And then all of a sudden we hear all this splashing, and like one of the kids, my kids, of course, like ran. The pond was covered in moss, so he thought it was grass.
Oh my God.
So he
Poor
just
little guy.
ran like full speed, and then he just ran into the water. And we hear all this commotion, and their middle daughter Mira was like pulling him up out of the pond. So I don't know. That's just
But he
kind of
learned
like
his lesson. He's not.
now
doing it.
he's like,
Lesson
yeah,
learned.
he's
Lesson
like, you
learned,
should
yeah.
always check the grass for water. He's like, make sure that grass isn't actually a pond.
Yeah, I love that.
So to rewind a little bit, so Brite has had these different chefs, and then how has this transition been into? Has it just been with the Looming Cafe that's kind of how the transition has happened, Kirstin?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think that's really your.
I don't know. Again, kind of going back to like after raising kids for basically 13 years, like working nights. So I'd be home with the kids.
Yeah.
And then I'd leave, and I've had the like really incredible privilege of working with really amazing chefs, specifically Yoshi and Zishan from Superkana.
Oh,
I was
cool.
on the opening team there. And they were really accommodating to me. Like I was still a nursing mother, while working the line.
Yeah.
So I would be home with the kids and then working at night, getting home 2 a.m. and then waking up at 6, like getting all the kids at school, have a baby, like all that stuff. So like that has been like the last 13 years, not specifically exactly that. But recently, now that the youngest is in school, I have the capability and the capacity to step into the role.
Yeah.
And it kind of happened at a time where with the cafe opening or the new place opening, also just with like a change in direction of
Branding
management.
and management.
It was kind of it was my moment, It's
Cool.
like, okay, now it's I was kind of like, put me in, coach,
I love that.
give me a crack at it.
And stepping up to the plate is a big deal. And this is something I definitely want to touch on because we've definitely had kind of like duo teams on the show before. And working with your partner can be challenging at times.
Oh, really?
To say the least. There's definitely
I'm
different
not difficult to
emotions
work
that I feel like get involved when it comes to a personal relationship in a professional setting. And I feel like that definitely is just another element on top of all of the other challenging elements involving business that does arise. And I can personally tell you from like experience, right? Like you see this is like, wow, this is something I normally don't have to deal with on a regular basis. And so what are some things that I guess in the last couple of years really starting to spend more time with each other now, right? Not just as like partners at home, but now working in business. are there any things that you guys did in preparation for like working together? Is there like books that you guys read or conversations?
It was trial by fire. It's just like she's here.
So interestingly, you know, we've always like worked so much, both of us, like independently, like whether it be like we've switched off a lot. We've had to switch off constantly. So especially without having help. So like I'd get home and then he'd leave and then I'd leave and he'd get home and switch off with the kids. So we're actually not even seeing each other any more or less. It's just like in a different capacity. And now it's more like, you know, we're able to check in on business aspects of things between bath time and bedtime and like things like that. So I don't know, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of in the same space, but not really. The kitchen is literally like second floor, maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 yards from the cafe currently.
Right.
When we move to the same space, that's going to, we're really excited about that. And I think it's going to bring a whole new dynamic. But to answer your question, I guess when I think about it, like why I believe we work really well together is because I know where her heart is in terms of like really looking after her staff. Like she's always checking in on them. Are you eating? Did you take a break? Are you okay? You know, like really shows a lot of like empathy towards, you know, her staff and really seeing them. And I love that because I know that not just in the restaurant culture, I mean, this happens in coffee and in any industry, USA, but there's always the possibility that you might have some sort of toxic element to that. And so like we have been in those environments and we really choose to not feed and nurture that sort of environment. Like we don't stand for that. So like we always want to make sure that we're doing things in a way that it's equitable, and we're being really transparent with our staff, and also like really seeing people for who they are. Like and the way I think that she leads, it's not so much as like with a iron fist, like you must do this. It's just really seeing people's strengths and also like spending time with them and really pouring into them. So she talks a lot about investment. So when I hear the word investment, it's always, from my perspective, it's always monetarily speaking, but you know, the investment of time and really giving feedback and pouring into people has created a very better environment, probably the best one to date because of her leadership. And so and so for me, like my approach is to like, it's hands off. Like she manages.
He pretty much stays out of the way.
Yeah. And it's a smart thing to do. Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that. And so I'm gonna pry a little bit here and make this a little challenging. So if you guys do come across a moment where you feel like, oh, this is getting a little bit too personal now, is there, or I guess first and foremost, have you guys felt like it's gotten to a point at some challenging times? And then is there something that you guys use to like, hey, let's back this off a little bit? Or is it just constantly you guys are just working well together? Because that's amazing too.
Well, I don't know if we're constantly working. I mean, we're go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, the businesses are still pretty separate.
Okay.
They're pretty separate still.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're kind of like tiptoeing. He's never worked with me before.
Okay.
So like that, I think is definitely an interesting new perspective for our relationship. But it's still pretty separate so far. We haven't had too many disagreements as far as like creative or like we're going in the same direction. And I think that's what he was trying to comment on is like, we know that even if one of us might not understand whichever decision or whatever, like we're all going in the right direction. We're all wanting the same things for the business, for the staff, for everyone. So there's flexibility there.
I love that.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Like the big things are big things.
Yeah,
the little
big things are big things, the
and
little things are little.
As long as you're heading in the same direction and you're rooted in the same core beliefs, core values for your people and what you're doing for your vendors. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And like I always like to use the term long game.
Yeah.
You know, like this is a long game.
Right.
It's really long-term, hard investments. And yeah, so like, I mean, we're still in the process of figuring that out, like what it looks like to work together.
Yeah.
As
And
a
raising
couple.
children at the same time, which I
Yeah.
think for a lot of listeners out there, the real kind of like wow moment for me is not only that you guys are both expanding on already an incredibly successful business and the model itself. I mean, I look at like little details, and believe me, just as like a restaurant guy, I see things like I saw your video on the tasting notes that you guys have at Fridays at the cafe here in West Loop, and how it's an open forum, right, for anybody to come in and cup some coffee or learn how to do that. And even like your tasting sheets, like I was just like, God, who made those tasting sheets? Like those are beautiful tasting sheets. Like I've been to sommelier things, where it's far less impressive than what you guys have created over there. So there's an attention to detail in everything that you guys are doing. The branding looks beautiful. I can't say enough about what I see with the branding around Metric and Brite. So I think for people out there, like we just had a conversation with Annie Shung recently, who talked about when she went into parenthood, that there was a switch that went off in her head about, well, I can keep working this kind of like probably at the time 9 to 9, right, corporate job. She's with a huge accounting firm, but she talks about going into entrepreneurship, and there was flexibility created for her to balance being a parent and being a business person. And I think oftentimes people hear of the challenges of raising children surrounding business, but is there anything you guys want to celebrate and highlight about being business owners and raising a family at the same time?
Oh gosh.
I think we're still at the point where we're waiting to see,
Yeah.
because unfortunately we don't have a lot of flexibility. It's a lot of like really just sacrifice and trading off, you know. For example, like we just went to New York for kind of like an R&D or like a research trip, also our anniversary. And it was the first trip that we've taken away from our children in almost 5 years.
Cool.
Or businesses.
Yeah.
So like that's, like we're still in the process of, we know that there will be rewards.
Yes.
But we're still kind of working towards them.
Yeah.
But also like, the kids themselves are very obviously like their parents are in the service industry. Like the kids are really fun little boys, and they have really great palates, and like you always see them at the cafe now because also they're also off of school like every other Friday for some reason. Like I don't know, I feel like every week they're like, oh yeah, we don't have school tomorrow, and we're like, wait, what? Why? So then we have like all three of these boys, like either two of them are up in the kitchen with me watching Disney on the Mac, or whatever, and then like one of them's like on top of the walk-in downstairs, or like climbing over a ladder. Or like, it's a lot.
Good for crawl spaces. Be like, organize up there a couple
connect
hours.
Those
come on
wires.
back.
Just go under.
Yeah, put these
and
kids
then
to work.
I mean, but that's something too. Is like I think our kids, they're really high energy, much like me.
I love that.
So for them to see what we're building, I think is going to be the benefit for them to see like, oh, I can actually carve my own way.
Yeah.
I can do my own thing, and I feel like we got a front of house guy, we got a back of house guy, and we got an accountant.
I love that.
So like we're pretty much set as soon as they're old enough to start working.
The next generation of Metric and Brite. There you go.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything to that?
I mean, you said it beautifully. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's in our experience, when I have heard some folks who are parents and are entrepreneurs talk about the flexibility, but in our experience, because we just have to be, we always endeavor to be real about our situation, which is that we have had a lack of access to resources, especially early on with being on Medicaid and being like, I think when we launched Metric, my take-home pay for a family of 3 at that time, it was like $300 a week. You know, so like even back then, which wasn't that long ago, but a decade ago, that was nothing. So
Right.
then she was working at Lula in the evenings
Oh, amazing.
while pregnant, and on the daytime, so we're doing a lot of flip-flopping.
I was
and
like,
so
pregnant, working. My time at Lula was a little bit limited because that second pregnancy, it developed into a really complicated pregnancy, so I was not able to work there as long as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I worked under Kelly Helgeson in the pastry department.
Oh, amazing.
And she is an incredible chef, an incredible teacher, and even the amount of time that I had there, which I don't think was enough, I recommend anyone to work there. I learned so much, and it was so transformative for me that like it's still affecting me and like the way that I lead my team to this day.
I love that.
So so I mean, I was working at Lula, pregnant.
Yeah.
Weren't making any money doing what you were doing.
Yeah, so that's it has been. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, but you know, like for us, the challenge of feeling like we have been on our own island, which is we feel isolated. You know, we feel like the lack of support from family, and that's another podcast, and this is not that one. This is not it. However, so that really just, you know, when we really needed people there, needed to reach out, like just people weren't there. And also for me personally, because I'm more of an introvert, like our middle child, like I don't really want to ask for help. So that was also difficult because, you know, we were just in places where we were experiencing things where being vulnerable and asking for help would have been a really good thing. But live and learn, you know, like now
trial
like
by fire for
trial
sure.
by
Trial
fire,
by fire, absolutely.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But yeah, these experiences have really made us into the people we are today, for better or worse, maybe at least for me. But like, I am really grateful that we are still here, we're still together, and you know, and it is bittersweet to have us sort of come full circle, because she's been working in other places and really leaving her mark, and like every place that she's been at, people just love her, like just really, I mean, I'm serious, they love her. It's like, she's the best, she's amazing. It's like, I know that, but like, you know, like,
cool, I can only work 10 hours and it's from these times. Great.
Exactly. So
well, that's amazing. And I think for a lot of parents out there, or a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, I think the take home for me on that was like, the kids are getting exposed to some incredible stuff. Not only hardworking parents that they can look up to, but also just everything, all the resources that you guys are creating around them. So like having the ability of like spending time on a farm, and like having these kids seeing like, hey, this is where food comes from. It's not in a grocery aisle, and it doesn't, come from glass. Like, it comes from this place. I think that's really special. And then for them to see this beautiful thing that you guys are working on and created already and continuing to blossom, I think there's a lot there that these kids are going to be exposed to and really have something, throughout their lives. Let's kind of jump back to Avondale. So the space was the driving factor, right? Was the move always kind of like, was it an extra benefit to being up north and the north side of the city?
Well, to some degree, but it was really more so the way we looked at the city. When you're looking at the grid, it's that we wanted to make sure that we're close to some public transit, which the Blue Line Belmont is like 2 minutes away. The highway is right there, and that was really, the highway was it. Like, I mean, the building, we fell in love with the building, but the highway, it's so easy to get on and off. And coupled with, when we started the process of purchasing the building, we went through the alderman, through Carlos Ramirez Rosa and his office, and they were so supportive, super supportive, like really championing, like making sure like the community got behind it, and everybody was so excited. They're still excited, and we get people stopping by all the time asking, when are you opening? When are you opening? So like we're just feeling really good about the space and the potential, but also like a lot of the challenges that we always face, even when we go out, it's like, oh, where do we park? Like, how do we get to where we're going? And so, like we wanted to take a look at that, and really, I think that we're solving some of those questions by purchasing this building on top of design-wise, what we did is we're creating a cafe where you can walk in, sit down, place your order, sit down, or we have another micro cafe attached to the kitchen that has access to the street.
And a to-go window.
And a to-go window.
Oh, I love that.
Yep.
I want to get my bearings because, and forgive me, I'm trying to remember. So I actually lived right there above like Kuma's Corner for a couple of years.
Yep.
So are you guys near is it Metropolitan Brewing is right there ish?
So you have, so if you know where 1994 is, then you know where Revolution Brewing, it's on the, I think, northwest side. It's on the other side of Kedzie.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
The opposite side. We're like on the right before you go to the highway facing,
Cool.
Yep.
I'm sure. I mean, Andy goes to Chungbu Market all the time.
Yeah,
so
it's
like
really
a
close to
minute
Jungbu.
ahead.
now
Yeah.
I've got 2 stops when I go there. Pick up some dumplings and some pastries over from Brite and some coffee as well. What are some things that you guys are really looking forward to about? And I guess I want to plug this in because for those of you that maybe don't follow Metric Coffee on Instagram, you guys have a cool video that I just watched, and it's really kind of gives you an idea of the space in its kind of like raw, unfinished look, and it is incredibly beautiful. I was just sharing that with the team. I love the skylight that runs through the top. It's those are some tall ceilings. It's a tall space. It's like 30, 40 feet.
It's
Those
Probably.
windows
Yeah, it's
actually,
really big, yeah.
those windows actually open, but they're on a crank
that's so
system,
cool.
or you
They
have
do
to
open
like
through crank,
you
yeah.
open it with the
Yeah.
crank. So
I can't wait to see it. It kind of reminded me of a space I saw in Portland many years ago, and it's just like this beautiful open space. So excited to see how you guys design this. If it's anything like your West Loop location, I'm sure it's going to be incredibly beautiful. But what are some things that you guys are really looking forward to? I mean, obviously, like getting the project done, but I know we kind of touched on this, so it's kind of thinking all-day cafe, serving maybe some savory elements as well.
yeah, so I'm actually I consider myself a cook. Like I'm still really struggling with the idea of calling myself a chef. I feel like a lot of people could probably relate to that.
Yeah.
But I actually feel more comfortable with savory items. But right now we're focusing on moving our wholesale operation into the kitchen. And then once the cafe is open, we'll be able to roll out with things that are a little bit more special, like a little more, basically right now we don't have plates. We can't serve anything on plates because we have such a small space. Like no one can sit down. We can't serve anything hot. Like I can't serve anything with like whipped cream on top of it, So there's like a lot of limitations. So I'm really excited about having a place for people to sit and like plates and like a way to serve them hot food. I think we are, as far as the direction of the food, I'm thinking it's going to be very much like mom food, like very nourishing, very comforting, very simple, really clearly from local sources, but with really a lot of global influences. So
I love that. And
and we're also we're getting a liquor license, so that space had a moratorium
Okay.
that was lifted. So and we're really big into wines. Like we love, and I think a lot of coffee people also that we meet that travel quite a bit, they're just so like big into wines. So we will have a wine beverage program, and we're also like Kirstin and I have been really into Amaros as of the past year.
I'm
So
very
maybe-
interested in doing Amaros.
what is it about Amaro that you, and I guess for listeners out there, how would you describe Amaro herbal liqueur?
It varies. Like
Does it
there's
have
so
to
many
be, it doesn't have to be
variables.
Italian anymore.
No,
right?
Oh,
Bitter.
Yeah, it's like an aperitif.
Sometimes.
Like sometimes after dinner, before dinner. I love the complexities of it. There's usually a lot of botanicals involved. I love. Flavor-wise, am really interested in like bitter flavors and intense flavors, and those are things that you would definally find in
I love
Amaros.
that.
So,
Very cool.
Yeah.
So some cocktails with coffee coming along the way.
I mean, we
Actually,
what?
I was gonna say I think we're steering a little bit away from cocktails.
Yeah.
Okay.
More wine.
More wine.
More Amaros.
More Amaro.
We might have a spritz on the menu
Cool.
or something a little lower ABV because we're not trying to. There's a school next door. Like we're not trying to get people too toasted.
Yeah.
But like one of my favorite things, and we've talked about this before. Fernet and cold brew is like one of my favorite drinks.
I have to try that.
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good.
It's really good.
It's
Yeah.
and when I was working at Cafe Marie Jean at front of house, I would really like boost up those ticket sales like really early in
I
the
love
morning
that.
because like you want a Fernet with that? You want a Fernet with
my
that cold
gosh.
brew? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It's delicious. And
really
floats,
good.
like I'm excited to do like Amaro floats or affogatos. Like all
I gotta
kinds of
say,
like that.
you've worked at probably, I'm just rattling off some of these restaurants. You've worked at some of my favorite restaurants in all of
I've
Chicago,
been
like
so lucky.
CMJ, rest in
Yeah.
peace.
I know.
The chef is coming back. He's about to open up something with Matthew Sussman, who
Yes,
I'm so
Atta
excited
Girl.
about.
I'm
Atta
so
Girl.
excited. Yes.
So big shout out to Table Donkey Stick there.
Yes.
Lula, I mean, just like the list goes
You know,
on.
it's funny.
And
like I've been really like under the
Super
radar
Kana?
for a really long time.
That's so cool.
it's kind of fun to like be put into the, all right, now it's my turn. Like I get to have a little turn.
that's an awesome resume. And I want to touch on the sensory room a little, Xavier. So where was the inspiration behind this, if there was?
You know, we've seen a couple of sort of concepts out there in the world. As an example, there's a place in New York. We're doing a pop-up there at the end of the year. It's called Public Records, and amazing space.
Awesome name,
and
by the
so,
way.
yeah, really cool space. And so they have a cafe there, and they do a lot of they have a cocktail program, food, etc. But they also really they do these like
Dance parties.
well, they do dance parties too. Yes. They do dance parties. They have live shows. They have DJs. But
Karaoke.
They do a lot of things that are paired with food and coffee and beverages
And
with
music.
music. Yeah.
Okay.
And so but there's a lot of things that happen. I mean, there's I won't say there's a lot of people doing that with coffee, but we're beginning to hear more of that. And in Chicago, within our space that we're building, we have a particular room that we wanted to just basically do more catering, more like hosting more private,
Events
smaller
and stuff.
events. And the one idea came about with talking. It's like, oh, we could put the record player there. And what would it look like to have a Saturday morning, like you buy a ticket and you sit down and you're going through espresso, you're going through some food, you're
Okay.
going through a pour over, some cold brew, and you're just listening to music that's curated.
I
So,
love that.
yeah.
That's so
I just
cool.
want to turn it into a dance floor.
Yeah.
Well, we can do that
That's
too.
what I'm interested
Yeah. That'll, yeah.
So I gotta say, first of all, it's very unique. I feel like it's exciting to hear because it's just something that like it's another activity to do that doesn't involve like going out and getting smashed
Yeah.
drunk.
Yeah.
And like Angela and I was just like trying to plan like what are some activities for our friends that are visiting Chicago that doesn't involve alcohol, and it's like so that's really cool. I think it's really exciting. I just went to Tokyo and had this experience, I would say, and when you said sensory experience, it was one of the first things that kind of came to my mind, but it's the opposite of that. It's very, I mean, I guess it's very Japanese, right? Everything's you eat in quiet and peace, and it's like the mindfulness of what you're enjoying. But it's a place called Cafe Mamea. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's like all sourcing. They don't do any roasting, but it is cool to, we had to wait in quite a bit long line there, but again, it was an experience rather than just going to a coffee shop and getting
Yes.
something. And I love that you guys are
Awesome.
creating that here in Chicago, where it's I can go and get coffee, I can go and get some delicious food, but there is like an experience element to it. Just like being in that space alone is already quite an experience. So I'm incredibly excited about this, and I'm sure listeners are, now that they're hearing about this.
Well,
So
I'm from New Orleans, and there's a place in New Orleans called Bacchanal. Have you guys been there?
I have not.
You have to.
So
It's awesome.
it's a bottle shop. Have you been to Bacchanal?
No.
No? It's a bottle shop, but you can also, it's a bar, and they serve cheese, and then they start
okay.
serving food, but it's this big patio, and there's live music every night, and like you go in, you grab your bottle, you grab some food that's like simple but delicious, and it's just a vibe. Like,
I love that.
And that's what, I mean, my vision is. Like, it's definitely a collaborative vision, but like that's what I want to bring, that kind of like New Orleans style hospitality of like food, music, you got what you want, like whatever you want, just come hang out, like
I love that.
be yourself, like have a good time. I want to bring that here because I feel like there's definitely like culturally speaking, like a really clear pipeline, like the Chicago to New Orleans. Like I think as cities, we kind of appreciate the same things. So we have this big patio space at the new the new space also that
Oh,
I
cool.
just can't wait to see filled with people and like music and I don't
Who's
know.
curating the
party.
music? What is the
Our middle son.
Oh, hell yeah.
You'll
Awesome.
find him back there.
That's great. That's awesome. I want to say this. I didn't know. Maybe we talked about this last time. I think when you guys joined us here at the restaurant, I think you guys did like a gamay or something light red.
Yeah, that's up his alley for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about this, but I didn't know you guys were kind of like, secret cork dorks. Like, I didn't know that wine was
I've
like
I
a.
love
never
that.
heard that
We
term,
are
but it's definitely
cork
not
dorks.
a secret that
I
I
love
love
that.
wine.
My new
Not a
Instagram
secret.
handle is cork dork.
What are some like wines that you guys really
man.
enjoy? Like stylistically, I guess, not to name producers and get all super
Yeah, this
geeky
is actually
here,
kind
but-
of a heated subject in our home.
Well, she loves Italian
I
wines,
love
and I've
Italian
become
wines.
more into Italian wines because of her. And her she's got some experience with that. You wanna
Okay.
talk?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I also worked at, I don't know if you guys...
Baffo?
Did you guys... It was like here and gone. It was the fine dining restaurant inside of Italy. It was a Mario Baitolage place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a weird vibe. It was like a weird thing, but I got to drink a lot of really beautiful Italian wines.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was... I don't even remember how it was. Like I was like pretty young to be exposed to such nice wines.
Yeah.
Really nice wines. So that experience like kind of set my palate like for wine. So
Okay.
I was kind of spoiled like having access to these really beautiful Italian wines.
Yeah.
I really love Sicilian wines.
Okay.
Like Mount Etna wines.
I
Like,
love that.
I love super poopy wines, like natural wines, like really funky. Like I'm really drawn to
love
like
that.
intensity, obviously.
I'm gonna use that
But
at the table next time. I'm like
it's
a little
barnyard, it's a little
poopy.
poopy.
Little
like,
poopy.
yeah, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that. I mean,
No,
I'm
I
a
like
mom,
that, though.
My
so
new
like,
handle's
it's a
super
little
poopy.
poopy.
That's,
Like,
my
it's like
Some
change.
Psalms will
cool
call
way.
that barnyard funk.
Barnyard
is
funk,
what
yeah.
they'll kind of use in
So-
replace of that. But I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But
And Xavier, what did
Xavier,
you
he
get
likes-
into first then before
Oh.
because you're like these Italian wines are too bitter and they're too acidic for
they're
me.
too funky for
Yeah,
me.
I mean, I've
like,
gotten
drink
into
it.
it. I mean, I've gotten more into Italian wines due to her just like love for Italian wines, and also our friends at Amphora in Oak
Yeah.
Park, great people.
Great wine
Amphora
shop, our
wine
favorite.
merchants.
Wait, where is this
fantastic.
shop? Where?
In Oak Park.
Oak Park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome.
What is
wine
it called?
selection.
Amphora.
Amphora. Okay,
Yep.
cool. I'll have to
Yeah,
check it
it's
out.
like the big
Yeah,
pots,
yeah.
it's called
The old
amphora.
way of making wine.
Yeah, they have a really great selection. They've started carrying some French wines, and it's probably just for Xavier.
I love that.
Because I was
But I
coming
do
in like,
like
oh, you only want
French.
French wines.
Beaujolais, which are gamay grapes,
Yes.
are
Speak my language.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the.
I will say I feel like most wine fanatics or fans of wine usually either start in France and you fall in love with French wines, or you start in Italy. Like most sommeliers will either be like, okay, where am I going to start studying? And it's usually tends to be, you'll see some somms that are very Italian focused, and then there are some that are French. And so I love
Yeah.
that we're going to find a little blend between the two of you
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like some other cool wines coming out of what's the area? It's like wow, I'm like really giving away my mom brain.
Europe?
Also,
Maybe
3
like
a.m.
a-
Eastern European wines.
Okay, like the
Slovenia, the Baltics.
Balkans.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's really cool wines coming out of there.
Yes,
also,
there is.
I've been getting more into German or Austrian wines.
Yes.
like that. Those are great.
I love
But
that.
yeah, so I'm really excited to see the you had mentioned earlier like the crossover between coffee and wine. Wine is considered something that's like really highbrow and like elevated, and like coffee should be given the same
Absolutely.
celebration.
I agree.
Do you want to pick up? We've talked.
Yeah, we actually
talk
talked about this,
all
and I'm
the
glad you
time.
brought it
Yeah,
back to
I
that
wanted to bring it
because
back
you
to
were
that.
mentioning that about wine producers, and so
Right.
and we were talking about like with coffee producers the value that that the public sees with and by the public I mean the public at large is that coffee should be a cheap commodity. So like unlike wine, because of the elegance in the countries where it comes from, the people that grow it, they are often not black and brown folk.
Yeah.
So then the value there is clearly I won't say clearly. That's another conversation. But like what we will see is that like people are willing to pay $15 for a
Yes.
glass, but they're not willing to pay $15 for a cup.
Right.
And understandably, there's a lack of transparency and lack of context around the value chain, like where the money goes.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're endeavoring to do at Metric as a certified B Corp, is that we produce this information and publish it and let people know how much we pay coffee producers. And with, our vision now with the food program as Kirstin's managing it, we want to do the same with food, with farmers, like
that.
at the local level. It's like we don't want to shy away from paying their price.
Yeah.
But we also want to make sure that when a customer is asking, why is this thing $10? Why is this, et
Because I
cetera?
said so.
Yeah. Well, that. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And also we pay for healthcare. We make sure that they have PTO. And these are not things for us to pat ourselves in the back. They should just be like standard things that companies should make available to their staff. Of course, for us, it's been really challenging. We couldn't do it on day one. We didn't have the money.
Right.
We started with a couple of bucks in the bank and a big dream. But
Yeah.
today, as you're moving the needle in that direction, and now with Avondale, is that we want to increase those benefits. We want to increase transparency, and always put quality and service and hospitality,
Yeah.
like all neck and neck.
And I want to be able to offer like a beautiful glass of wine that you can, pay $15 for next to like a single origin espresso and
Right.
see like these are the same. These
Right.
deserve the same level of celebration and the same level of reverence, and like put it next to like a beautiful vegetable dish,
Yeah.
like these are all things that deserve equal representation and equal celebration. And I mean so I'm sorry, okay.
No, I love that. I think, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, out of curiosity, Xavier, how many? I know Metric is so good at being transparent, and you have your is it newsletter or magazine? I think.
Yep.
But how many other coffee roasters are doing that out there?
It's a very good question. It's really challenging to produce this information because a lot of times you may have a company that is wanting to do it. They're doing a good job. They're getting good coffee, but they're not necessarily working directly with all of the members of the supply chain. So, like if you're just working with an importer, oftentimes the importer gives you very little to no context as to like who these people are that are growing the coffee. Whereas in our business and in our family, we're having that instant connection, and I'm constantly
he'll get like a WhatsApp notification at like 3 a.m.
Wow.
and it's like from a farmer.
I love that.
and
Yeah.
we're constantly communicating, which is really awesome. And for us, or for myself on a personal level, like I even pinch myself when I go to farms. I'm like, I get to be here. This is
Yeah.
amazing. And I get to have this fellowship and this communication, these relationships. And what really inspires me through those relationships is to have them in a way where I off the bat tell producers we work with, it's like, don't treat me as if I'm special. Don't do anything for me out of the way. Like don't like a lot, because there's this hierarchy, right? There's this thing where it's like you're the buyer, you do this, you do that. I'm like, we're not going to do that. Like we're going to build a friendship. This is going to be family. And so that's one thing that I always do with all of the relationships, and also like how I sort of break the tension when people are really reserved, which a lot of coffee producers are. I just crack jokes. I just like start telling dumb
Also,
things, and
you speak the language of.
and I speak Spanish. Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge distinction that a lot of the buyers that are going
Yes.
down to, especially Spanish-speaking countries, they don't speak Spanish.
Right.
So I think that that's a really unique connection that it makes it able for Xavier to connect with them on a deeper level because he speaks the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want, the takeaway for any listeners out there and for those of you that are open to sharing more of this information with others is that for me, it's like a company like Metric and Brite and what you guys are, like your mission. For me, it's like, here's a way for consumers to make an impact with their dollars spent, right? I know that at times coffee can be more of the concern is always like a convenience thing, but the reality is that like at the end of the day, if we're all trying to make this place that we're, temporarily renting, a better place for the future. Like we can all make a small change in our decisions. And whether you're shopping down the grocery aisles and you're looking at, some of these other we're very well marketed brands that might give this impression off that there's fair trade happening, that there's transparency happening. But the reality is that it's just really good branding. And then here's a brand that you guys can rest assured is making an impact positively in the world, and that your dollar spent with them is going directly, not to just like from the whole chain of source to, but also to employees, to a work culture that people are incredibly happy with. So kudos to you guys and all that you guys have done so far. And I'm, like all of us here are incredibly excited to see how far you guys can continue pushing this. So big shout out to Metric, Brite, the two of you, the family, the kids, even for putting up with parents that are working too hard.
Yeah.
I want to go into a game with you guys really quick before we start to close out here. So it's going to be rapid fire questions. All right. And you guys will answer at the same time.
Okay.
I'm going to ask a question. No thinking is allowed. It's just what first reaction to it. All right. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Yep.
All right. No wrong answers here. And here we go. First one. How do you take your coffee?
Black.
I like to pound it with milk and honey. I gotta suck it down real fast.
Oh yeah. Favorite child?
Ooh.
Rude.
No. We just do that for some fun. We all know it's Tito.
Yeah, that's everybody's favorite. Is Tito.
Favorite pastry?
Oh gosh. Oh, I love the danishes she's making. The carrot danish for me. Would that be a pastry? Is it pastry?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's okay. I don't know. I don't know.
And for you?
Generally, or the ones that we have.
The ones that come to mind right now that you're like, I love this.
Man, all of them.
All of them.
I'm a savory pastry girl. Like I
love that.
It's too hard to say. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite drink at home?
Ooh. I mean, wine.
Okay.
Yeah, and for me,
Amaro.
Yeah.
I love that. Favorite midnight snack?
Oh, cheeseburger.
I've been getting up at night. She's like, I'm hungry, so then I make her a
Wake up,
cheeseburger.
like,
Yeah.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
Cheeseburger, of
yeah.
course.
I love that. Favorite pizza topping?
So I actually really love classic pepperoni pizza,
Okay.
but I like it also with jalapenos and honey. I know it's kind
Okay.
of like
The hot honey thing is
like,
a thing.
like I
Yeah.
like that,
Same.
but also the pizzas at Supercana, the non-pizzas, like we have
they're
a
so good.
cheeseburger pizza.
Yeah, they're
I
so
would say
good.
that like
All right.
my
I'm on
favorite
board.
pizza
Yeah.
is cheeseburger
Zishan and
pizza.
Yoshi, I'm
Yeah.
coming for this.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
All right.
I don't know if it's still there, but
And your last one here is favorite city that you guys have traveled to?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. We have kind of a wrap up here question, and this is for our listeners and for yourself. But we all understand that, throughout this journey, that it is in fact a process. Is there any advice that you could share to your younger self that you feel like you would have shared with them?
First thing that comes to mind is to really not be afraid of asking for help, and to also like to be vulnerable around people that care about you, because I think that's something I've always sort of a wall I've always had as a way to protect myself and the way my brain, I would say, used to work. But now the way I understand that level of transparency and vulnerability is I feel now like if I could go back to my younger self, it's like, hey, you're going to miss out on some beautiful experiences and fruitful situations if you continue down this path. But now my perspective is that, in being able to talk about not just the hardships, but also just to be able to be open and honest and is really the way to go.
I love that.
And so like I would just, but the V word, the vulnerability, it has taken me a long time to be able to reach out to people and talk to people and really focus on on my mental health and what it is to be a father, what it is to be a husband, a Latino man in this world, a person that grew up in an environment that I wouldn't wish upon many people, but I am grateful for the lessons I've learned, especially as of late, because of my willingness to be transparent and open.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Kirstin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I have kind of always struggled with feeling like, I mean, a lot of people in the industry feel this, like imposter syndrome, or feeling like you're not good enough, but everyone is really trying their best. And so, like, I would say, like, not being afraid to fall or not being afraid to fail and just keep it up.
I love that.
So,
I love that.
Yeah.
We have a little beverage here that's been donated here by our sponsors. So big shout out to Cocotel Collective. This is highlighting an awesome distillery here in Chicago. The distillery is Reinhall. I don't know. Sure, you guys are familiar, which is really cool. Mary, I'm going to let you pass these over. So this is an espresso martini by Cocotel Collective. Shout out to Chio.
Oh, thank you.
This, if you guys want to try this recipe out at home, pretty easy to make. We've got 1 3/4 ounce of some good vodka, and 1/4 ounce of Norden Barrel Reserve Aquavit, 1 ounce of Reinhall coffee liqueur, which I should mention uses metric,
You do? Yeah.
which is so cool. And just to add even more of that delicious flavor, you're going to add a shot of metric cold brew on here with a 1/2 ounce of coconut syrup, or demerara syrup can be used. Just shake that up really good, and I would always say double strain this and serve it up in a beautiful little coupe glass and enjoy. With I like a little coffee ground right on top as a garnish. Is kind of like the new thing that we're gonna try here
Like
at
that.
our
Yeah,
restaurant. So just some contact information to share with our listeners. For Instagram, they can follow you guys at Metric Coffee and at Enjoy Brite. Do you guys want to share your personal ones on there?
I stay private.
Okay.
Yeah. Mine's Proletariat, at Proletariat, and that's it.
Yeah. It's very hard to spell, but every time I see it,
Yeah.
we can come back to that. Website information, you can go to and learn more at metriccoffee.com and enjoybrite.com.
Brite.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I mentioned their address earlier. If you guys want to go and check out their cafe and roastery right now in the West Loop, it is 2021 West Fulton Street. They have their new location coming up. You want to share the address?
Yeah, it's 3110 North Kedzie.
Awesome. And they can find more information on the website as far as updates.
Correct. Yep.
Very, very cool. If you want to reach out and you want to learn more, maybe sign up for some cuppings on Fridays, or just say hello, you can reach them at hello@enjoybrite.com for anything and all things at Enjoy Brite. Cool. Thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you guys so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Xavier and Kirstin. Awesome. You guys did great.